Hi and welcome. If you are a visitor to our site or new to our site or a contractor visiting our site, we request that you consider a few things before entering into a food processing area. The first thing we consider is our health and safety. It's important that we are equipped with the right equipment, safety glasses for example, safety boots for example, clean clothes for example. That's health and safety, and that's protecting you or one of our team from any physical injury. When it comes to food safety, we do have a few requirements and requests that we make of all our visitors, all our contractors. If you are suffering from symptoms such as vomiting, diarrhea, or illnesses such as COVID-19, you are not allowed to enter a food processing area. If you have symptoms such as vomiting and diarrhea, it's important that you see a doctor. With COVID-19, it's important that we self-isolate ourselves for at least 14 days before entry. We also minimize the risk from any foreign matter contamination. So for example, if you're entering a food processing area, we minimize things like our watches, jewelry, earrings, false nails, things like that before entry into a food processing area. And finally, if you're a contractor visiting and you're carrying tools, it's important that we decontaminate and sanitize the entire toolbox as well as any tools that you might be bringing onto site. We're only using approved chemicals. If you're in doubt about an approved chemical, please check with our site service engineer. And finally, you're sanitizing with an appropriate sanitizer. And in the case of your tools, this is generally a 70-30 ethanol. In this video, we're going to talk about everything you need to consider and remember before we enter the critical hygiene area. The critical hygiene area protects the food and our customer food from us. So a few points to remember. When it comes to foreign matter, you're thinking about dog fur, cat fur, or your own hair that might fall on your clothes. So it's really important you're using a lint remover to remove any foreign matter such as fur or hair that might be on your clothes. The next thing you need to consider is your uniform. If you're a contractor, there's a few more things you need to consider. Obviously, we're expecting you to wear a high-vis jacket before you enter the plant, so you might have that on. That will need to be removed. If you're working in the processing area, you're going to be wearing earmuffs, especially if you're working with sound and challenges around sound. If you are working with any hot work, you will need to fill out the hot work permit with the site engineer. And really important when it comes to your tools, even though we might have done this before coming to plant, we re-sanitize all our tools before entering into the critical hygiene area. Your toolbox needs to be clean. Your toolbox needs to be a firm material that can be cleaned. It cannot be a cloth or bag that might pick up cross-contamination from outside. And it's really important that the tools are decontaminated with a proper approved chemical. Generally speaking, it's a 70-30 ethanol sanitizer that we use. The next step is to put on your coat. If you're new on the team, one of the team will help you find the right coat. It's important when you're putting on your coat, you don't let it touch the ground because that can cross-contaminate our whites. We always start with the head going downwards. So we put on a hat or hairnet. It's important if you've got long hair that you tuck it in properly like so all the way, and if you've got long hair, everything is tucked in. If you've got any facial hair, it's important that you also put on a beard guard. Our next step is to confirm we don't have any foreign matter, no jewelry, no watches, no false nails, no nail polish, no rings, etc. Because all this can form a foreign matter hazard to our product. We then proceed to decontaminating our boots. We decontaminate our boots like so, making sure that we get enough sanitizer on all our boots. Once we finish decontaminating our boots, we then return the sanitizer to the basket and then proceed to wash our hands before entry. In some instances, we might request that you put on a covering on your boots before entry. We then proceed to wash our hands. It's really important that we follow a few simple steps. The first step is to wet your hands, and then we apply soap. Really important that you lather and scrub for at least 20 seconds. It's important that we go all the way to our wrist. Don't forget your thumbs on both hands, the inside of your palms, between your fingers, and lather and scrub for at least 20 seconds. If you've got any biofilm on your hands or dirty nails, we also use a nail brush. So we brush our hands. A nail brush is not just for your nails, it's also for your palms and anywhere you've got biofilm on your hands. So we scrub our hands like so. Really important that you rinse out the nail brush for the next person coming along. The following step is to rinse. Finally, we dry our hands. Drying our hands are a really important step before entry into the processing area. Just before you leave, it's important that you wipe down the tap and the basin out of courtesy for the next person before disposing of the paper towel. The final step after we dry our hands is to sanitize our hands. So it's really important we get on sufficient sanitizer over our hands, making sure you air dry it before entry into the food processing area. Just one last thing, if you're working in the organic section of our plant, it's really important that you're not using an alcohol-based sanitizer and you're using an appropriate sanitizer for that processing area.